are hitting the ground running this afternoon with a panel led by Reggie Bradford, who is SVP of Startup Ecosystem and Accelerator at Oracle. Joining him for a panel will be Julian from Ambi, Anna from Perx Technologies, and Mario from FlySpaces for a panel entitled Think Like a Startup, How Modern Business Will Succeed. Welcome to the stage, guys.
Thank you so much, and thanks for the panelists for joining me. My name is Reggie Bradford, and I'm Senior Vice President for Oracle, and I lead our startup ecosystem and Accelerator. And I'm really excited today to talk about this subject of not only entrepreneurship, but startups and how big companies need to rethink innovation. Just a really quick background on myself, then I'm going to introduce our esteemed panelists, or have them introduce themselves and give a quick background. I myself sat in the chair of the founder startup. I had 3 startups that Reach acquired most recently. My startup was called Vitru that Oracle bought in 2012. So when I think about sort of enterprise collaboration, innovation, I'm always thinking about what's in it for the founder, and if I was running my own company or startup, how would I sort of take advantage? So hopefully the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to have a thoughtful conversation about what are some of the challenges that exist around the world, and specifically in Singapore and in Southeast Asia, and what are some of the opportunities that are emerging. So with that, maybe we can just have the panelists do a quick introduction and background on the company. Thank you.
Thank you, Reggie. Hi, everybody. My name is Anna Gong. I'm from San Francisco, but living here in Singapore. I also was one of the startups that also got acquired into a large multinational enterprise software company. And the reason why I moved to Asia was to help them grow the business here. So this is my 5th startup experience, and the first one at Perx in Asia. And it's an interesting journey for me. Actually 3 startups failed miserably. And one of the startups actually was quite successful, and we returned 10x the ROI to the investors in San Francisco. This one is still growth stage, and I'm very actually bullish on the market of the MarTech space and the AI-driven consumer engagement platform. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thanks, Anna.
I'm Mario from FlySpaces. We are like the Airbnb for office space. We're just an aggregator for co-working spaces and service offices. We've been operating for about a year now. We're operating in 6 countries, more than 400 partners. We have more than 250,000 square meters under management. I was working in Rocket Internet before, which allowed me to have a soft landing on entrepreneurship. That's why I believe, Rocket Internet is a tremendous organization to work for, because I moved from a corporate job to a semi-entrepreneurship positions, and then just like many of us in Rocket, we decided to become full-time entrepreneurs. So it's been an interesting journey also.
Hi everyone, I'm Julian, the founder and CEO of Ambi Labs. Ambi Labs is an IoT company and we believe in using artificial intelligence to unlock the true power of all of that data. And our first product actually uses AI to improve the air conditioning comfort experience. Prior to Ambi Labs, I started my career actually in strategy consulting, and spent the last sort of 5 years as a private equity investor, really investing in not just startups, but also more established companies throughout the Asia-Pacific region. So for me, I think this was a really interesting opportunity. Kind of why I started this entrepreneurial venture was I really wanted to get, kind of down in the dirt, so to speak, to really understand some of these challenges, not just tell people how to do things, but actually try it myself. And it's been a real steep learning curve and a very educational experience.
Great, thank you guys. So we'll jump in with the first question, and I had this experience as, in my 3 companies. One of the biggest challenges I had was, how do you find revenue and reference customers? I also can remember painfully losing customers, getting fired. I remember once losing a deal, and I was in an airport, and I called my wife crying on the phone because I thought the company was going under. So maybe we can Julian, we can start with you and kind of work around. What's your sort of biggest pain point today in terms of growing your business?
Sure. I think, for us, it's certainly, the smart home space is really new. Certainly, I think a lot of consumers are aware of that concept of smart home, but very few people, especially in this region, are familiar with specific brands and specific products to buy. So there's a lot of education required. I think that, for us, I think we're adopting multiple strategies there, both working with corporates as well as, really sort of targeting more sort of, fruitful markets such as the US. But here in Asia, where our product is really focused, it really is a lot of just education of the market. So it's quite challenging, but I think it means that it's nice to see the market is developing in its own way as well.
Mario?
For us, we are a young startup, so it's related to people, right? It's difficult. I mean, we probably all agree that Asia has a tremendous pool of talent, but it's difficult to catch them, right? Because they get courted by Capital Land, Microsoft, Oracle. All of you guys can pay them a lot of money, give them a lot of holidays, etc. That's not exactly how it works in a startup. So most of our team is based in the Philippines. Our second biggest office is Singapore. There's a tremendous fight for talent. And the second one, which are correlated, is on fundraising, right? So amazingly enough, the more you fundraise, the more talent you attract. You necessarily pay them more, but they like to work for a well-funded company. So Slack, notoriously, it's already broke even, but it keeps fundraising and fundraising because they say we attract the best engineer, we attract the best marketing talent because they want to work with the most funded company. On the fundraising side, I just speak fresh because we just finalized our next round of fundraising. I personally saw the Asian VCs way more conservative than the American ones. They understand the consumer space very, very, very well. But the B2B space, like enterprise, etc., I personally didn't feel, or maybe I wasn't good enough to explain them how exactly the B2B space works. So we've been very unsuccessful fundraising with the VCs, but we've been very, very successful to fundraise with developers. As a real estate play, we totally see the big guys, really, really interested in understanding innovations within.
Great. Anna?
Well, thanks, Mario, for teeing up for me where I'm in the B2B space. I refounded Perx to be an enterprise software company, which is a very big task from a B2C business model. And so if you think about the whole ecosystem here for the VCs, as Mario pointed out, they're very risk averse, and also the complexity of the sales cycle is not very well known to a lot of the investors. Why is it so long? Where's your cash flow? Why are you not profitable? The funding, also the funding size is quite small in this region for even large B2B type of startup environments. So compared to the US or the Western market, so for a Series A, we're only dealt with sub 10 million, and in the US, it would be probably much larger, so that you can hire the A players, you can hire the A team from the get-go. Fundamentally here, I've seen a lot of the ground-up approach rather than top-down. To build a foundation is to build a really kick-ass leadership team, and with 4 other startups, that's what I've learned. But I also almost cried in a few scenarios where we actually have to walk away in some defeated deals, but we have so far qualified ourselves more out of opportunities than actually getting us rejected, which is a good thing. As a startup, the noise around you can get you very distracted and you can lose focus. So we're highly focused on the big organizations that spend hundreds of millions on innovation with millions of consumers under their belt.
Great. Good transition, Anna. The next topic, maybe we'll start with Mario. Leadership. And I think probably a lot of people in the audience, many of the people in the audience might have their own startup. They could be people looking to join startups, or maybe they work for big companies like myself. What kind of characteristics or traits do you look for in your senior leadership? I know a lot of people, this isn't cut out for everybody. I always try to tell people startups, you do have a tendency to have a lot of highs and lows. I look for people that have bold vision, that work well in a team, that can think quickly on their feet. And frankly, we've had a lot of challenges over the years with my startups of finding the right talent. And you know, what do you? Maybe you guys can kind of each talk about what are those traits.
I guess it really depends venture by venture. So if we are in a B2B customer-facing venture, so the pool of our talent are salespeople. And I don't really care if they study in Harvard, NUS, or Colegio of the Barangay in Manila. As long as they can sell, they will have a job for us. And the only way to test salespeople is not by looking at their curriculum, is to give them something to sell and go off the road. So we have quite an entertaining, to say the least, selection process in our office where we ask them to sell stuff. We throw them problems, and the first hour they arrive at the office, and you see like a little bit how they react to problem-solving skills. Quite entertaining the way we recruit sales talent. I should invite you in one of those.
That'd be great.
So it's really about problem-solving and be able to sell, which actually selling is a problem-solving skills, because if a customer says yes, there is no negotiations, right? And when the customer says no, then you need to try to understand, etc. So it's a lot about that. And another thing, especially the young kids, the Asian millennials, they require a lot of energy. A lot of energy. I'm too old. I'm 32. I guess I'm too old for them.
You're too old?
Yeah. Literally, sometimes our office looks in a way like a Wolf of Wall Street for the sort of energies that we have at the office, not for the entertainment aspect of it.
No porn?
But no porns, no midgets, no this entertaining stuff. But it requires a lot of energy because they arrive in a world where in Singapore, for instance, the big monies are in finance, or now technology. Oh my God, there is so many things I can really make an impact, et cetera, et cetera. So when you leave your school at 22, 23 years old, you don't really know what to do. You know, your parents told you go in finance. Your friends that want to go in startups. What do you want to do? Maybe I want to open a restaurant, right? These are really the scenarios I face sometimes when I recruit. So it's really about throughout the path, and maybe you get very good talent, but are not the good talent for your company. So unfortunately, you will have to let them go.
Great. Anna?
Houston, I think we have a problem. If a 32-year-old says millennials are actually hard to manage.
I'm a millennial, technically. Right?
He's still a millennial. He's looking in the mirror saying, God, I'm so hard to manage. Leadership in the startup is really difficult because you have to put up this front all the time. Who do you turn to talk about your struggles and challenges?
Yep.
You really don't. And that's why we joined these EO or any type of entrepreneurial programs. But in terms of fundamentally just staying focused and actually applying yourself, you have to dream big. For me, my motto is go big or go home. Mm-hmm. I mean, I had an investor that said, why don't you just stop expanding and focus on Singapore? Focus in Singapore and prove your value here, but we have proven our value here. And the addressable market is less than 5 million. So to us, we actually choose investors that have the same mindset and thought process. If you're actually pulling me back, I take 2 steps forward, and you pull me back, I take 1 step back. There's no way I can actually expand. And so for me, I have to find strategic investors that think the same way.
Great. Go ahead.
Thanks for teeing that up as well. In terms of leadership and the bold vision, I think maybe our experience coming from Asia and with the Asian investors, as every kind of other speakers alluded to, is a little bit harder to raise the bigger numbers. So I think for us, I would say as a startup, agility has really been a key thing. So we need to have the vision, we need to have the direction, but in practicality, you have to grab the opportunities that present themselves. And I think for us, it's been keeping an eye on the vision, but sometimes the path is something a little less controllable. You need to be able to be flexible enough to, continue to move forward, but grab the opportunities that present themselves.
Well, one piece of advice that I was given 15 years ago when this old guy was still in secondary school was from a VC. He said startups' biggest mistakes are they don't fire fast enough underperformers, and they don't charge enough money for their product. So we could have a whole conversation about that, but
hire slow, fire fast.
I fire fast. And
Good.
in Rocket, they really teach you that also.
Maybe that's dated. So let's go back to Anna again and kind of work our way around here. Next topic is disruption and spotting the pivot. Again, I think the word pivot used to be kind of a negative connotation because it sort of indicated that you couldn't find a market, you couldn't get your shit together, and you were struggling. Now I think it's like a sign of like vitality, and even like Facebook pivoted, I think in many respects after it went public to mobile, and I would argue. And now it's like a sign of success, and at least 2 of my 3 startups substantially pivoted after identifying better marketing opportunities. I know, Anna, this startup, you told me last night you went through a pivot. So maybe you can talk about how do you stay ahead of the trends and identify the opportunities, and talk through that maybe.
Well, when you look at a business model, is it repeatable and is it scalable? And is it sustainable? We didn't have a sustainable business. It wasn't highly scalable across the region. So if you think about how do we go from here? If we're not going to survive and you're almost near insolvency, what are you going to do? So pivoting is almost a natural progression in a startup. If you're not pivoting, that means you're doing something wrong in today's speak. And so for us, it's a massive pivot to the enterprise. That was a very bold statement for us to do. But in terms of even not just pivoting product market fit, but pivoting from a pricing perspective, your revenue model, you're constantly tailoring your pricing model and revenue model to the different vertical markets, because a customer might want a rev share model. Some customers might want to pay for subscription, and some customers might want to do a monthly. So you have to continuously pivot even in the revenue model itself.
Okay. Mario?
It's my day-to-day is pivoting, right? We are very young, so I don't think we're going through a major pivot. Although what we noticed is opportunities that we haven't seen before that, we say, okay, the business model for now it's working today, but what if we can get even better? So we might pivot not because our existing business model is not good, but because we've seen something better or more difficult to disrupt in the other case, or with higher entry barrier for our competitors, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a little more where we're looking at. I just think it really depends on what stage it is your startup. If you're pivoting every 2 months, then I think you have a problem. Obviously, but in business school, they teach the difference of pivot to disruptive growth. I mean, there are various theories about pivot, right? So.
Okay.
Yeah, for us, we underwent a major pivot, actually. Initially, when we first designed this product, we were looking for very simple functionality, typical smart home functionality, just a product tailored for the Asian market. But as we went around and did a lot of user research in the region, we interviewed people in Hong Kong, Singapore, and in Japan, most people were telling us, why do I really need to control my smartphone from my air conditioner? How often do I forget to switch off my AC? That just doesn't really happen. But almost everyone turned around and said, but I have this other problem with my air conditioner. It's always too hot or too cold, or the weather changes, or I wake up freezing cold in the middle of the night. Help me solve that problem. And that's almost, for us, the pivot came about just by listening to our customers. And although it was a difficult challenge to solve, just figuring out how could we develop something that delivered true value to them.
Great. Okay, I'm going to shift now to a little bit more to the topic, maybe think like a startup. A lot of enterprises, companies like Oracle and many, many others around the world, are trying to infuse their organizations with this startup mentality. When I was acquired most recently, one of the companies that did not acquire us told me, you won't last there more than 2 weeks. And I've been here almost 5 years. And I think the reason I'm probably still here is because I see, a real desire, in my company to change, to fail fast, to make decisions quicker, to do things what I would see embody, taking an entrepreneurial spirit, and why we're, also, here is to launch, a big part of our initiative around cloud, which is to develop next generation leaders that are developing startup applications and infrastructure on our platform. Maybe you guys can kind of comment on your own view of how companies need to think about, of all sizes, but especially big ones, how they need to think about infusing this kind of mentality.
Sure, yeah. I think we've certainly worked with some B2B partners, both in Hong Kong and here in Singapore. And I'd say that, yeah, the vast majority of companies, they are very old school. They're looking at this as, kind of, they're looking at us as a vendor. What is the final spec? What is, there's a lot of process involved. But actually, we really just want to co-develop something with them. We're flexible. We're willing to adapt to their requirements. We want to make something that is win-win. But fortunately, we found a couple of partners, one here and one in Hong Kong, where we are able to work towards that. And I think at the moment, I'm hoping there's a gradual trend towards that, but they are few and far between, I'd say right now.
Okay. Mario?
I guess I can contribute in two ways. So on the first side, I'm a consultant for the biggest telecom in the Philippines, from PLDT, which is one of the biggest conglomerates there. They really, from the management, they really want to go through innovation. They really want to disrupt. The problem then is the middle management. Guess who opposed the most to developing product which are disrupting the telecom? The middle management, because they're afraid to lose their job. It's a very Asian approach, right? Very conservative, very way of conservative approach to work, right? On the other side, as an entrepreneur, again, I receive a lot of money from the big developer guys, so I can see real estate guys interested. Telecoms have no choice. They're being pushed completely to disrupt or die. I just think that the way corporations in America are looking at innovation is very different than the way Asians are looking at innovation. So in America, from what I've seen, I never had to work there, but by listening to these guys, I see, the big companies in America, they kind of embrace innovation. They either building on their own or they buy, no problem. We purchase, no problem. We give freedom to the entrepreneur. You are an example of this, etc. Asians want control. I'll buy out, either to kill you or you come and work for me, right? Asians are, they really like control on things, but because the big corporations most of the time operate in oligopolies or semi-monopolies, right? Like in the Philippines, there are only 2 telecoms, and they're obsessed by 1% market share on each other, right? They will never allow one of their investee to do business with the other telecom. It's like, it's that for them, it doesn't exist. So I think the Asia approach of innovation is like, we have a lot of money, we just buy you out. Fine, all right? So that's my opinion.
So I've been a similar journey as you, worked for quite a number of large companies as well. I also thought I wouldn't last for more than a couple of weeks or a couple of years, but I stayed with one of them for 7 years. I think because big organizations are trying to now keep startups and acquisitions separate so that they can actually allow that team to develop and grow and act nimbler and agile as they could and should be in that position. And when you do that, they still grow 100%, 3-digit growth year over year. But once you start integrating, the larger organizations start to cannibalize the whole ecosystem, the channel ecosystem, whatever you built from the ground up. And so that's very natural to experience. When you actually now go into this big company approach, I see a lot of them are now panicking. They're in this massive panic mode where they're saying we're growing cloud technology and the cloud business unit 40 to 60% year over year, and it's because of acquisitions. And a lot of these, I would say optically, these numbers come up because of the startups. And we worked with a lot of companies now, the banking sector, insurance sector, and telco sector. A lot of them have already segregated their innovation team or maybe develop a separate innovation team, an agile team to tinker with different products. One of the largest banks here actually have, I think, 7 to 15 different teams to just build products on a weekly basis and have weekly or bi-weekly sprints. And they're actually tasked to come up with new ways of doing things. And so companies are starting to think differently and act differently. But how many mavericks do you have in an organization that are willing to actually take a career-limiting move to say, you know what, this shit is not working. We've got to do something differently and a different approach. But apparently you can't take an elephant and bite it in one bite. So these large organizations run separate agile teams for a reason, innovation labs for a reason. Great.
I know we only have like I see the clock here, 6 or 8 minutes. I still have like 3 or 4 questions. So we're going to move to the lightning round. Next topic is company location. Steve Case talks about the rise of rest. my 3 startups were in Atlanta, Georgia. We had this giant sucking sound, which was move your startup to Silicon Valley if you want to be successful. Singapore's got a great ecosystem developing. I'm amazed by the ecosystems that are all around the world around startups. You guys are in 3 different markets. Maybe you can, quickly start with Julian on how important is this ecosystem and also the, kind of the globalization, the global opportunity.
Well, I mean, I think, firstly, in terms of the opportunity, at least for us, one of our, initial theses in starting the company is that a lot of products today are designed for a very Western audience, the US and Europe, because, well, the consumers are there. But we believe there are consumers here in Asia, and it's an untapped demand. So that's one of the reasons why trying to leverage the benefit of being here. I think, Hong Kong does have a lot of benefits. Talent pool is somewhat limited, but there are other benefits like the manufacturing from the Pearl River Delta, and also logistics is a great base. I think as a startup, we're always looking for more talent. I think all of us are saying that, talent really is the key. Don't have a good answer to that yet.
Great.
Yeah,
Mario?
I couldn't agree more. We saw a lot of companies really not adapting their business model, having a very westernized approach, and they were dramatically failing, right? So Rocket Internet notoriously started with cash on delivery in the Philippines because there is a little problem. Only 3% of the population has a credit card. And those people, they don't buy online because they're very rich anyway. So they go on stores and they travel, etc. So the adaptation of product, that was very important. Also, what I see is that the ecosystem here all over Southeast Asia is accelerated to a tremendous pace. I mean, tremendous amount of talent, tremendous amount of, Chinese, Singaporean, Filipinos, Thai, leaving United States, safe job in the United States, going back to Thailand, going back to the Philippines, going back to Singapore, and creating very successful companies because they ultimately have the best of both worlds, right? They got maybe the innovation side of aspect that happens in the United States, but it still managed to adapt the products in Asia, and those guys are unbeatable. I mean, Chinese are are too good. They are scary good, right? On entrepreneurship.
Right.
So this whole ecosystem is very, very interesting. Yeah.
Great. Anna?
I think Asia is one of the hardest regions to master. Different religion, different currencies, different culture. It's one of the most disparate regions to work with, and also frustrating as well. But at the same time, you learn very quickly to adapt. They say Singapore is the gateway to Asia. It's a wrong view of reality because Singapore is so different from the rest of ASEAN or Asia. So I think it's just literally a launch pad. It's a good POC to your business, but the rest of Asia is much bigger and greater opportunity to actually master.
If I can just add on this, the thing of Singapore is the cost of entrepreneurship is very high.
Yeah.
I mean, you make a mistake in Singapore because of the salaries you pay, the rents you pay. You should use FlySpaces, by the way, for rent. And it's $1 million mistake, right? You make a mistake in the Philippines, in Bangkok, in Ho Chi Minh, the cost is 1/fraction of it. So that's why I get, you asked me this question, why in Manila, right? Because, I get tremendous amount of talents, they're more affordable, they're just as hardworking, and with a fraction of the cost around the whole region from Manila.
Makes sense. So we announced yesterday that we're launching a, startup accelerator to find next generation startups and really try to create a path to help them grow their business. I mean, a lot of people have done this, have done accelerators, but I don't think anybody's mastered the ability to connect startups to enterprise customers. We know how to sell the enterprise, and sometimes that's a challenge, and then co-innovate and co-develop. Do you guys have any advice maybe that you guys could give us as we're, building out this?
Well, I think, for us, certainly I can imagine, the benefits of a program like yours. I think, for us, sometimes when we work with the larger corporates in co-developing something, we keep having to remind them that we're flexible, we're open, we want to work together, but we are a startup.
Yes.
We have limitations. So if you give us really high requirements, we'll try and do it, but it will take us longer, perhaps. So I think having a bridge between that, I think would be really beneficial.
Awesome.
My piece of advice would be put very high entry barrier. I know, I want to attract companies. Why would I put but you want to attract good companies. Unfortunately, all over the world now, because of the tech scene, everybody wants to be a tech entrepreneur. Oh my God, it's so cool. I'm going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg. Sorry, baby, it's not going to work, So we just see a lot of I want to be entrepreneurs or part-time entrepreneurs. Today with $10,000, you put up a website, you incorporate a company, you have a market, you outsource everything, and then you don't do anything. So I will definitely charge for office space. I will look into the founders, the backgrounds, cash flow. I mean, I will look at like a VC investment. I will do a lot of due diligence on them.
Okay, Anna?
I think having the combination of an already existing customer base and also entrepreneurial-led, I would say Accelerator, it's a good combination to help mentor the startup founders, because the enterprise space is really hard to muster. And with your experience and also with some of your leadership's experience, it would help foster that kind of mature ecosystem, because the founders here need a lot of mentorship, and we don't know what we don't know. And so selling to different countries of different stakeholders, if you have 400,000 customers, which we salivate over, how do you bridge that community with the startups that you actually support?
Well, let's find out. I know we're out of time. I'm going to just throw in one lightning quick question, one comment, or maybe a couple of phrases you guys could leave for the audience, maybe the best advice you could give or that's been given to you. Mine was, running a startup, don't get too high on the highs and don't get too low on the lows. So what's your advice?
I think I would echo what you said earlier, tenacity. I mean, I think that, there's some days where everything just seems to be going wrong, and you just keep moving forward and things will get better.
Great. Mario?
Invest all your time on the team. That's how I invest most of my time.
Anna?
Like Julian said, it's really about resilience. There are so many dark days, but there's just a really exciting and dynamic journey, and just embrace it, have fun, and just really experience that journey.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I want to, audience, if you wouldn't mind, give us the panel a hand. Thank you guys so much for a great topic conversation. And we'll all be around later today if you guys want to catch up, and I think we're finished here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, Reggie.